everybody? Sean Birdsong here, Sharon Ledalon. Welcome to another edition of Beyond the Court. Today we have a special guest with us. We have owner and CEO of Sutaria Training and Fitness, and also trainer of NBA, NFL, and MLB stars, Mr. Jay Sutaria. What's going on, guy?
How you doing?
Doing good. How's everything going with you?
Good, man. First of all, I want to say thanks for having me on here. I know it's not very often that we get opportunities to share our story on a big platform, and doing what we do and helping people one-on-one. It's always good to get in front of a big audience and share our story. So it's cool.
I appreciate your time. I know you're busy right now. With the NBA season about to wind down to the playoffs, and I know Major League Baseball it started their season. You're training multiple sports. How has that been for you with these guys, and they're getting ready for the playoffs as far as basketball?
Oh man, it's been awesome. I think it would have been better had COVID, the pandemic not hit us, obviously, but it's got its perks to it. I think a lot of our guys, unfortunately, they're not going to be in the playoffs, and so we're not having to worry too much about getting them prepared for the playoffs. It's just more about let's get through the season healthy. And I think that we're lucky to say that pretty much everybody that we've worked with in the off season has made it to this point of the season healthy.
Wonderful.
And that's all we can ask for. For our guys that have grinded with us for 3-4 months during the off season to come into this season and not get hurt. Right. The majority of the games, I think that's all you can ask for as a trainer.
Right. Now you train, again, NBA, NFL, and MLB. What would you say is the different type of regiments that you do between the different sports? And when you first started it, was it kind of an adjustment to, I know obviously there's different training methods to it, but how do you adjust to the different sports when it comes to your clients?
I think, I can speak for NFL and NBA. We don't have as much experience with MLB, and so it's hard for me I don't have a big range to go off of for the MLB. But as far as NBA and NFL go, I think it all depends on the position. Obviously, the NFL football is a more anaerobic sport. You're not having to condition as much. Some people would not like that I said that, but I think when you compare the two, basketball is definitely more of an aerobic sport, right? And our training reflects that. I think both sports require an unbelievable amount of stability. So you see a lot of guys in various sports doing single leg training in our facility because you can't name your sport that isn't played predominantly on two legs, on one leg. I'm sorry. And our method is the more stable and powerful you are off of one leg, the more stable and powerful you'll be off of two. Right. It's natural to me. It's common sense at this level. So the big difference is the type of training as far as how hard we push you on the conditioning side of things. But I think the stability, the power production, and the coordination, I think all of that, reactiveness included, I think all of that is pretty similar when it comes to any sport, not just basketball and football and baseball.
Right. Now, I had the pleasure of, being down there the past December when we had our American Ballers clinic. Yeah. And, you invited me out to your facility. I got to tell you, man, it was like the equipment that you have, the environment, it was like a family atmosphere, especially, when those players were coming in to get treatment for you, the Rockets players you had, Bruno and those guys that were getting treated after training or during training camp, but after practice. It was almost like a family atmosphere. Is that what you kind of envisioned when you first started? Like everybody just family oriented, cracking jokes and stories and all that kind of stuff?
That was exactly it. Exactly it. So where I started, I shared a gym it was a privately owned facility, and I shared that facility with 25 other trainers.
Wow.
And I had professional athletes coming in, and I had all these other trainers looking at what I was doing with these guys. And then naturally, what goes on behind the scenes, what you don't get to hear is people talking mess about you. This guy, he's 20, 21 years old. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's got professional athletes that he's working with. But then I started seeing at every facility that I went to, and I went to 4 before I finally opened my own facility. Every facility I went to, you leave a little bit of a blueprint behind, and you start seeing other trainers doing the things that you were doing with your clients, with their folks. And so something's got to stick. Something that I'm doing is working. Something that I'm doing is liked by other trainers. But no, going back to your original question about my vision, it was absolutely that. It was a privacy-based model. It was respect every client as if they're a professional athlete. It's respect the privacy of every client the same way. Your money, sitting behind a desk at a 9-to-5 job, your money is not any less green than the professional athlete who's playing, in front of thousands of fans. So that's the whole model.
That's great. And we've always found that, I've been around these NBA guys for 20 plus years, part of the family. And the things they very much appreciate is that you treat them like people, You just sit down, keep that family environment, the jokes, and you got to be able to take the ribbon, which sounds like you are, But you got, because when they're comfortable, they don't stop, right, Sean? They don't poke. It's like big kids are like, oh, we got a live one. But tell us a little bit about your upbringing, and was being a sports trainer always your goal?
So growing up, originally I played baseball, and I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't really any good. My brother, I have an older brother, he's 2.5 years older than me, so I was always kind of in his shadows, and I followed in his footsteps. So then he picked up basketball, so naturally I picked up basketball. And I like to think that I was okay, at the sport, but I'm 5'8", and I'm not realistically, I'm not going to go anywhere professionally, and I kind of knew that from a very early age. And I remember one day sitting down and running the numbers. I said, okay, if I averaged, I think I was in high school, and I said, okay, if I averaged playing basketball 2 hours a day, and I've been playing for 11 years, I better go somewhere with this sport. Because I spent a lot of time, and I've invested a lot of time in it. And, in high school, again, 5'8", but I played the 4 and the 5 for my high school team. And because at my height, the only thing that I had control over was how fast I was and how strong I was. And being 5'8", I was able to box guys out and get rebounds. And that became it. But, and then it kind of morphed into, when I went into college, I pursued exercise science as my degree.
Okay.
With the intent that I was going to be a physical therapist. And when I was in the personal training program at the same, concurrently, my dad had the idea of me, be a personal trainer and help some people while I was in school. Well, I started teaching for the same program after I graduated that personal training program. And one of our students that came in was a physical therapist from England. And I saw how one-dimensional she was. It was just rehab, just fixing people, right? I mean, she knew the hell out the body, but the application to get somebody stronger and all that, it was a very, very ground level type foundation that she had. And I said, you know what? I don't know if I want to do physical therapy. I kind of want to be a jack of all trades. I want to take aspects of physical therapy and apply it. I want to take aspects of strength and conditioning and formulate it into one business. And that's what we were able to do.
That's wonderful to hear. And again, I'm 5'8", so, and there's small basketball players, okay, in the league, okay. So anyhow, okay, you attended the University of Houston. What made you want to go there?
When I was coming out of high school, I applied to one school for college.
So you just knew.
Well, my dad traveled a lot for work. And so in that sense, like, I had grown really attached to my mom. Okay. And I wanted to be somewhere close enough. I still stayed on campus for my first 3 years, but I wanted to be somewhere where I could always come home if I wanted to. And, I came home probably, it was rare for me not to come home at least once a week.
Home cooked meal, right?
What's that?
It was about home cooked meal.
Home cooked meal. Good eating.
Yeah. Did you also want to be a professional trainer? I know you told me it kind of migrated to that point, but once you got. comfortable. I mean,
So it's funny. I'll tell you guys a story. You know, my dad was always, you know, you're gonna be a physical therapist, and
right.
when I had that change in mindset to say I'm gonna be a trainer, mind you, I'm in a facility training folks where you know the trainers they were able to build a successful business and
Hmm.
support their families. My dad, when I told him that, he said, "You can't make good money. You won't make consistent money. You won't have consistent hours of work." And he was a little bit upset about me, you know, taking that route. But he's always been supportive. You can be upset and still support, and that's what he did. Um,
Oh,
and it's funny because it wasn't. I was training independently for about 3 years
hmm.
before Dwight Howard's manager reached out to me,
Okay.
and Dwight wanted to take me, you know, to Miami and Las Vegas, and then the idea was if I did a good job and he liked what I was doing, then it was going to be Dubai and China on top of that. And I remember going to all four of those places with Dwight. And about 6 months later, um, I got a random message on Facebook from somebody I don't even know. And he basically said, "Hey, I found you online. I just want to let you know that I was sitting at a wedding reception with your parents, and I find it funny how you know you're a trainer and your brother's a doctor, but your dad couldn't stop talking about what you do."
Absolutely.
Right.
And I was like, you know, so I grew up in a household. My dad wasn't, you know, it was either like you do it, and you know, there's not much positive reinforcement. Um, And so when I heard this from a third party that I didn't even know, that's what kind of let me know that okay, you know, from the time that my dad was upset about me going into personal training, my mindset was I'm going to prove you wrong, right? So I'm going to do it for you, but I'm also doing it for myself. And then when I got that random message, it just kind of solidified everything that I had worked for up to that point.
Right.
That's good.
And you, like I said, you parlayed that into a long list of clients, you know, most notably, you just mentioned, you know, Dwight Howard, DJ Augustine, Bruno Caboclo, Jay Sean Tate, who I had the pleasure of meeting in Houston, plus among other NFL players. I wanted to ask you about how you initially met Dwight, because
So I wasn't busy at the time. I wasn't a busy trainer, and he had posted on Instagram. You know, are you familiar with Sprinkles Cupcakes?
a little
Yeah.
bit.
So I mean, it's just a cake shop basically. And so he was like, you know, I'm gonna be posted online. I'm gonna be at this cupcake shop from this time to this time. Come and say what's up. And I was like, I looked at my schedule. And I was like, all right, cool. I guess I'm going. You know, because I didn't have nothing else to do. And he was coming off messing up his knee in the playoffs that year. I think he had sprained his MCL or something like that, and it was public knowledge, you know. And so I went over and I put one of my company shirts on my shoulder to give to him or whatever, and I waited in line for probably 2.5, 3 hours. And at the time, uh, Josh Powell, if you don't remember him, and so he was Dwight's manager at the time. And so you know, I'm standing there, make eye contact with Dwight. I said, "How's your knee?" And he kind of made a face, you know, it's okay, but you know, you could tell it wasn't.
Yeah.
And I walked up to him and I said, "I can help you with your knee." And he was like, "Okay, well, let's take this picture, and then you know you can get my manager Josh's number." Um, and so I, you know, took the picture. He tried to give me a cupcake. I'm like, "No, I'm good." I took the shirt off my shoulder, right, and I gave it to him, and he took out a Sharpie to sign it. And I said, "Dwight, like, this is for you. I don't want your signature." And so now put yourself in his shoes. He's in a facility. He's in a shop where 100% of the people are there to take a picture and get a cupcake and say that I took a picture with Dwight Howard.
Exactly.
Now if somebody else walks up and says I can do something for you,
Right.
and that just like you said, Sean, like we parlayed that into just like a brotherhood. I mean, I can text him at any time, and you know when my son was a baby, I have pictures of post game when Dwight came back to play the Houston Rockets, and you
Hmm.
know my wife is pregnant with my firstborn, and he's pointing at her belly, and then that very next offseason we took a trip to Atlanta where Dwight lives, and you know he invited us over to his house, and he's playing with my son, and it's a beautiful thing because these relationships, A, you're very lucky to get them. And then B, when you do get them, you cannot mess them up. So it's a lot of pressure on you, but I feel like good people just vibe with good people, and you know, people see that.
Now, for Dwight to have that start with you and actually, you know, training him early on, and then, you know, the relationship off the court, how good did that feel for you, for him to finally get that chip and know that you had, you know, really a hand in that process of where you guys started to he finally getting a, you know, a championship with the Lakers? What was that like for you?
I think aside from Dwight and his immediate family, I was probably right up there with the happiest people in the world. And it's funny because, you know, Dwight has a little bit of a negative reputation just among many years in the league. You're going to have, when you've been doing something for so long, you're going to have people that speak negatively about you, about anything that it is. They're going to find something. But I cut people off when they're saying something to me. I said, you will never tell me anything negative about Dwight that I'll believe, because he single-handedly did so much more for me than anybody ever could.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have to respect that, and I can't, you know, feed into the negative, you know, conversation that happens. And I'm just like, you know, I mean, the man paid for my kids' education. You know what I mean? Like, and the money is still sitting there, and that's what I'm going to use it for. Like, and nobody else has done that or will do that for me now.
What a lot of people don't know about Dwight, I helped him with his foundation back in Orlando.
Again?
Yeah, you know, he's did a lot of things with Adonal Floyd. Do you know Adonal?
I don't know him, but I know who you're talking about.
Him and Dwight were very close as a foundation, so we used to do a lot of work together. And I feel the same that you said. When people say something about Dwight, says, or any of the guys, I'm like, you don't know them. You do not know them. You need to keep quiet. You know, you have no idea what they do off the court. You know, seeing Dwight just get on the floor with the kids and just be, you know, the biggest kid with the kid. That's what I would say, the biggest kid with the kid. And when, I don't know if you remember when All-Star Weekend was in Orlando, this is just a side note, we had a short period of time because I was the CEO of the Orlando NBA Retired Players Chapter. That was when they were on strike. Okay. And All-Star Weekend was put off, and we literally only had maybe 3 months to do it. The reason I shared this was that Dwight had an opportunity during that time of all the buzzing and hearing to leave before All-Star Weekend.
Yeah.
But he stayed because he felt the commitment to the community. Since the Magic was a long time coming that they got to host an All-Star, and they had an All-Star, and he stayed.
I'm not surprised by that.
You know, he stayed and made that one of the most successful All-Star weekends.
Yep. I'm not surprised at all.
And people were like, so that's why I said, wait a second, you know.
Exactly.
He made Orlando shine, and then he went and did what he, you know, had to do, because, you know, they don't know what goes on in the back office with these players.
They don't know. And you know, like you said, it's just, you gotta say, keep your mouth shut. You don't know.
Now, you know, coaches and players, you know, get a lot of credit for the success that they have on the court, but it's rare that you hear about the trainers and people behind the scenes. You know, do you ever feel like you get your respect personally from whether it's organizations or even players that come to you and say, hey, great job, Jay, man, I really appreciate the way you helped me, like, you know, calm down, or you make me, you know, my strength is getting better. Do you ever get that kind of feedback from either organizations or players?
I do. I think, you know, when guys, we just got in pretty close with the Rockets community now, and the head strength coach and all that. I think he really respects, you know, the work that we do in our facility, and he doesn't question. I feel like there's a different treatment when guys go into that facility to work out with him, and he knows that they've been with us for that offseason. I think he takes that into account. Now, whether that's appropriate for me to say and put out there, I don't know, but I'm just speculating, right? I think the players definitely, the way you gauge feedback from the players is if they come back for a second offseason with you.
Yeah.
If they're back, that means, you did something for them. I personally, I always say, Sean, I don't expect that. I don't expect any recognition back for it. I don't expect somebody random to say, hey, DJ was moving so good after you started working with him. But I don't, cool, but did he make it through the season without getting hurt? Now I can take a little bit of credit for that.
Yes.
I'm not going to teach a guy to put the ball in the basket. They've been doing that for years. Right? I'm not going to teach a guy to post up and, or go and block it. Like, that's not me. I'm the guy that's going to hopefully allow you to play 82 games. And I tell every single guy the first day they come into the facility, a hurt athlete is useless to the team. They're looking to replace you. Every team is looking to replace you because they can go and get a rookie for half the price. Right? It's business, right? At the end of the day. So, are you willing to invest in your body? And I think, you know what, Sean? I'm thinking now there's a lot, there's 3 or 4 other trainers that work with professional athletes around our facility. And a lot of them will do what they do for little to nothing. I mean, next to nothing. Hey, don't worry about payment. Just post on social media or tell your friends about me or whatever. And so when somebody comes into our facility and pays upwards of $100, $125, $150 for an hour, I think that in itself is validation that they're respecting the work that you're doing with them.
Right.
Yeah. Because at the same time, you just made a very good point. You have to also get paid for what you're worth.
I think so. I mean, it's
and people have to get comfortable with that. But that's also, there's also the worth of the social media, obviously. But you got to also pay for what you're worth.
But Sharon, there is it's very, very hard for some professional athletes to understand that because they've been getting free training their whole life.
Yeah.
And I can understand it in their mind. Like, okay, I got to this point without paying somebody for training. Why do I not have to start paying somebody to train me?
Right.
But they pay for your worth.
And then if they get hurt and I hear back from them, I never say, "Oh, I told you so."
You should.
But I told you so.
I would. I have no filter at times, as you see. I'm like, I told you so. I said, you get what you pay for. Oh, you paid nothing. Oh, I see. You got nothing. You got hurt. Thank you. So tell me, I know you work on the physical part, but there's also very much, what do you do with these guys mentally? Because, the power of the mind is very strong to dictate to what the body does. If a man can walk over hot coals, I see that's mine. So even if you're in pain, as you're about to post up, that adrenaline and muscle memory, it's also mentally,
Yeah, and I think it starts with the way you prepare your body during the off season. Our program is about 12 weeks at the minimum, and guys come in 5 days a week. That's 60 workouts. And if you've made it for 60 workouts in a row, no problems. Obviously, all the big things aside, like if you get sick or whatever, if you can do that, it starts there. Consistency is the first step towards being a great player and improving. And, having suffered from anxiety and depression myself and seeing, various counselors and therapists and all, that's huge to me. And because the more consistent, and it's almost in a selfish way, I think the more consistent my players are with me, it gives me a sense of routine as well. And I get very attached to our guys, not because, it brings me more clients or puts me in the spotlight or anything like that. I get attached to our guys because I see them improving, and I've been so invested. Our team has just been so invested in their betterment that to see them succeed, I mean, it's a beautiful thing, and we just get so happy, kind of like when Dwight won that championship last year. And I think that's what's missing in the industry is the connection between players and their trainer.
Yeah, I definitely agree because it's I think one thing that COVID has, taught people where this interaction, the mental fatigue and everything, and people are reaching out and saying it's okay to not be okay. and just to take a breath, just take a breath. And you don't have to be on every single minute of the day.
Yeah.
And they expect the athletes, like you're saying, from the time everybody thinks they know them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They don't cut them a break. They're supposed to be smiling and happy and like, what you got depressed about? You got money, it's like
money means
you play
happiness.
sports, you have everything, and they don't realize it's not about things, it's relationships. And that's why they really appreciate people like ourselves, like you, like Sean, because they can just be, just talk to them about, being what a human. First thing I always ask them, how the kids, it's like, oh, thanks for asking.
And even this year, we had a couple of guys over. They play on the team. They had them over for dinner.
Yeah.
It's me, it's my wife, it's my son, and this player. And the last thing I want to talk about is basketball.
Because that's work too. That's like,
talk about your work. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about your experience as a rookie playing in your first season instead of a day-to-day, the game. Let's not talk about the drama between, the dynamics when James Harden wants to trade. Like nobody, that's over. It's overblown. And I don't know. I feel like, even some of my clients, ask him what happened with this. I'm like, yeah,
I don't care.
If something happened with your work, would you want me hounding you about that?
I like that.
The best thing is, I think my wife says it to me all the time. These guys will come over and we'll be having a good time. We'll eat dinner, watch TV, watch a movie or whatever. And I'm going to shout one of my guys out. He's a cornerback, a DB for the Cowboys. Deonte Burton came over. He drives from Dallas. It was 6 a.m. He comes over to our facility. He works out. He takes a nap in our office. He wakes up. He works out again. Then he drives home. That's typical for Deonte. He does a 2-a-day with me, and then he drives back 4 hours to Dallas. Now, one of the times, the most recent time he came down, he stayed overnight at our house. And I have a picture of him reading a bedtime story to my son.
Aww.
And so then obviously, Deonte goes to bed, my son goes to bed, and my wife and I are talking. She said, I forget that Deonte is an NFL player. And that's what you want for your relationship. I don't want people to come over to my house and think, Jay, I'm talking to a trainer of all these athletes. I want them to just see me.
Yeah. Right. And that's true. And that's like you said, I was going to ask you the other question, but you just answered. Some of the perks of being a trainer and being in that world is that I imagine they look to you to just be real. Just be real.
That's all they want. And it gets sticky, because Jay as a person, I'm very real. But when it comes to the business, we have to fund our facility. And so money is a thing, I'm not personally benefiting. I keep my doors open when you pay the bill. And so I think, with training, that kind of gets sticky. You're my friend, but then you're charging me at the same time. And you got to draw that line pretty quickly.
Right. Now, you always hear about whether it's managers, GMs, even agents, like tit for tat, going back and forth and everything. You kind of hit on a little bit when you were first starting your career. Now that you've, in my personal opinion, you've arrived at a great level to where you have a lot of notable clients, your facility and everything. Do you ever get from other trainers, like, I'm sorry, not other trainers, but other players, yeah, well, we have this facility over here. You should come work out with us. You shouldn't go over there. You should do this. Does that ever happen to you? And if it does, how do you kind of block that noise out? Because you hear it a lot, even especially with agents. No, don't do that, don't do that. How do you handle that?
So it's funny because usually, Sean, you see that stuff on social media, right? Right. So I'm on social media as my business, STF Houston, and I think we follow like something like 400 accounts. And I think like maybe it's 415 accounts, and 400 of them are muted.
Ah.
So I just don't like to pay attention to any of that. I feel like what we're doing, it comes from a good spot in our heart. We're doing it with the right intentions, and hopefully, all I can ask for at this point is that guys see that, not just the professional players, but their agents. I think that you can very easily separate good intentional work with sporadic, we call it clout-based workouts, right? It's just going to get you a big Instagram following, and I mean, there's literally trainers we've heard to say the more Instagram followers you have, the better trainer you are. We're like, no, like that doesn't matter for anything. And so, yeah, we definitely have seen that stuff, Sean. But I think kind of separating ourselves from social media has, it's a way to stay relevant without having to see all the crap that goes on.
And I asked that purposely because, our message, especially to the public and also, the youth in our organization, try to talk about weeding certain things out, especially at a certain level. You can't really let noise affect you, And speaking of the youth, you had the pleasure, like I said before, you came by the clinic, you and Bruno, you actually talked to those kids and gave them a great, message. I want to know, what do you feel you need to still work on yourself? Even though you've arrived at a certain level, is there goals and things like you're still trying to push for?
Yeah, you know what, Sean? I had mentors when I got into this industry, and all the conversations were about starting a business. And zero of the conversations were about scaling your business. And that's what I need to work on. Is we're at a point now where myself and Daniel, who's my partner in the business, the two of us are not enough to, we don't, the way we work in our facility, Sean, is one-on-one. We don't group guys up. We don't have, the only time we'll group somebody up is if we're doing a conditioning day and they have to pass a certain threshold or graduate to a certain level to do that stuff. And so realistically, how do you service 30 players in an off season with 2 guys and then still take care of your 9 to 5 guys?
Okay.
How do you do that, right? And so now you got to scale. You got to bring on other trainers. You got to, because the overall mission of our business is to maintain a quality service and not water it down. I've seen it too much, and I've seen it in our city, and I've seen it in other cities where trainers grow too big, too fast. And I know this because some of those trainers, their professional athletes left them to come over to me. And that was what they told me.
And I think the balance, like you said, is, a successful business can fail because it's very key in just going across border that you scale too fast. But also the culture, which is now very prevalent today with what this country's going through. What kind of culture are you going to create? And you have to have people that are not there for the photo op.
So
that wants to do the work.
I think our price point separates us from the folks that do it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
We don't have folks coming in that's just taking pictures, selfies in the mirror. If you're in our facility, you're paying top dollar to be in our facility.
Right.
And they're working. They're working too.
You're not just. We're definitely getting work, right?
Right.
And because it's a one-on-one atmosphere, think about it this way: if we have 4 trainers in our facility, right? You got 8 people in the gym at one time. 4 trainers and 4 clients. You see what I'm saying? So, you can work with us, but don't think that the photo op with the professional athlete is going to be a thing, because we're going to schedule them at their time, and you'll be scheduled at your time.
Exactly.
I think that's what separates. We haven't had any issues with folks coming in for the wrong reasons, and I think that's a big part of it, is staying true to our business model, and not worrying about clout or Instagram fame, or we leave the spotlight to our players, and we're just an extension of that behind the scenes.
I think that goes back to the culture. The culture of your facility is those athletes and people who come in that are non-athletes that get work with you. I think they understand that it's not photo ops, it's about work, it's working. And they really appreciate that. And I've always felt, since I've, known you, you always seem like laid back and really humble. I wanted to know where you got that, like, humbleness, if you could say it, that's a word, training pros, but do you try to stay behind the scenes a lot? Is that just your nature? You're not trying to be out in the forefront like that? Whereas you see a lot of other people who are probably in your position, they want to hang with the NBA superstar and the NFL player and all that. You're kind of like behind the scenes. Where does that come from?
Yeah, that lifestyle is not for me, Sean. I think that's why Dwight and I got along so well. No clubbing, no drinking, no smoking. I mean, that's just, we vibed on that level. But I remember the night that I was leaving for Dubai with Dwight, I remember being in the kitchen at my house, and I hugged my wife, to say bye, and I said, "Hey, can I ask you for a favor?" She said, "What's up?" And I said, "If you ever see this getting to my head, tell me, so it brings that down, because I've seen it too much, and I've always kind of been a step ahead on that side of things to know that, the caliber and the quality of the people that you're working with, it can get to your head."
Oh, yeah.
And for me, I never wanted to be in that situation. I just want to help people. That's all I want to do. And if it means I'm helping an 8-time All-Star, I'm helping an 8-time All-Star. If it means I'm helping the pharmacist that has a day off and wants to come work out, I'm helping him the same way I would help the All-Star.
Right.
Now, could I ask you, what did you do in Dubai?
Oh man, that was the best trip I have ever taken. Maybe it was because who we went with, and but we did the sand duning, so we did like a desert safari. And they drove us out to literally the middle of the desert. And it's funny because we stopped. They had to deflate the tires on the Jeep to go through the sand, right? And you get out there, and it's just like a campsite setup, and you can go like sand duning.
Yeah.
You could ride the camels. You could, have dinner. They got belly dancing show going on. So we did that. But then the coolest part was, there's two cool parts. We took a helicopter ride from Dubai to Abu Dhabi, and we got a private tour of Abu Dhabi. But the coolest part is where we worked out with Dwight, and that was at the Crown Princess facility.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was I'll always look back on that trip. Always. We used to have bets, the training staff with Dwight, we used to have bets because he's such a good guy, and he'd always just want to go to the mall and hang out. And they have a huge toy store in that mall. It's probably the size of like a Walmart in the mall. And we used to have bets as a team, like, hey, how many pictures do you think Dwight's going to take with fans today at the mall? And it was like, my guess would be like, oh, he's taking 200. It was cool. Dubai it's a great place. It's number 2 on my top trips I've ever taken.
What's number 1?
Greece.
Okay.
Santorini.
Okay. All right.
We went to Athens and Santorini.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Jay, we always ask our guests this question. It could be, off the court, on the court, or anything that pertaining to you. What does being an American baller mean to Jay Sutaria?
Being an American baller to me, number 1 is the first word of the phrase American. I think what we stand for as a country, and what we've been through, honestly, with everything that's gone on the past year, not just the pandemic, but the racial injustice across the country. American to me means fighting that stigma. I think the rest of the world is looking at us like, oh, finally the Americans have problems now, and that's not good. I think as a collective unit, as a country, we need to come together and fight that stigma.
Yep.
And then baller, it's funny. I mean, it could be anything. It could go. You can obviously think about basketball, but you could think about life and being successful in life. You can think about your mental health and being successful with your emotions and your mentality. And then in my field as well, I mean, obviously you can think about your physicality and being successful physically, being a baller physically.
Yeah.
So it is just whatever aspect you want to think about it at, just being at the pinnacle of that makes you a baller.
All right. I appreciate you, man. Where can people find more information about you and your facility?
Very easy, stfhouston.com. Instagram, STF Houston. And if somebody hits call on that Instagram link, that's my number.
Okay.
There you go.
Easy as that. There you go. All right, man. I appreciate your time, man. Like I said, I know you're busy right now, but I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, man. And best of luck with everything that you got coming up.
Thank you. I'm blessed and honored to be a part of this podcast with you guys. And Sharon, I appreciate your time. Sean, definitely appreciate your time and everything that we built over the past couple of years. I think it's huge, and I'm excited to be a part of the future.
And I look forward to seeing you in person. And I'll be in Houston. Don't worry, I will.